Hey, what's up? My name is Neville Solomon, and welcome to Virtual Church TV. Today, we're going to be having a interesting topic. We're going to be talking about what would you do if you had $10 million coming up.
This is how I fight my battles. 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 It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. 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 It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Nothing is as strong as your blood. Nothing is as strong as your love. Nothing is as strong as your blood. Nothing is as strong as your love. This is how I fight my battles. 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 It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Nothing is as strong as your love. Nothing is as strong as your love. This is how I fight my battles. 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 It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you.
Hello, and God bless. Once again, my name is Neville Solomon, and welcome to Virtual Church TV. If you want to get in contact with our ministry, you can just visit us at nevillesolomon.com. Nevillesolomon.com is the website where everything about our ministry is listed. So if you want to know about our books, want to know about our YouTube station, or if you want to contact us on social media, feel free to connect with us at nevillesolomon.com. Today, we're going to be having a very, very interesting conversation. We're going to be talking about what would you do if you had $10 million. The reason why we're asking this question is to get us to think big and to get us to dream and to develop a vision for where we want our lives to go. A lot of times, the excuse that we use in terms of not being able to get things done is the financial constraints and the time constraints. So today we're going to remove those financial constraints. And the question that I'm asking today is, what would you do if you had $10 million? I'm going to be answering that question myself in different categories, and would love to hear from you, your thoughts and your ideas around this topic. So first and foremost, I just want to say welcome to those who are in the live stream. Welcome to those who are in our replay and are listening to this video. And I am believing and I'm trusting that you'll be blessed by what we talk about today, and also that your imagination and that your visioning will be expanded. So I want to talk to you about what would you do if you had $10 million. There's a lot of different things that we could do. We could do things that are related to ourselves. We can do things that are related to other people. We can do things related to our passions. We can do things related to just our own self-interest, or a lot of people might do things that indulge themselves, such as vacations and other things like that. But we're going to be looking at a few different categories today. But I guess I'll start out by saying that when you think about the first thing, what would be the first thing that you would do if, say, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock a.m., you had $10 million? What would be one of the first things that you do? Some people would say that the first thing that they would do is to resign from their job. Others would say that the first thing they would do would be able to call up all their friends and tell them about it. But I particularly want to talk about what would be one of the first things that you would purchase, one of the first actions that you would take as it relates to your $10 million. For myself, I think my answer is going to be kind of practical in some sense. Maybe it's not even that inventive, but one of the first things that I would do is I would pay off all my debts. I hate debt. I hate owing people money. I hate credit card debt. I hate rent. I hate mortgage. I hate all those kinds of things. So if I had $10 million, and it's probably not the wisest thing to do, to be honest, but I think one of the first things I would do is I'd pay off all of my debt so that I'd be debt free. And then, very close to being debt free, I would look at investments, investing my money in wise places so that they would continue to accrue interest. So that's one of the first things I'd do if I had $10 million today. It's going to get a little bit more exciting as we move forward, but I just wanted to share my practical thoughts on that. So I don't know if anyone wants to share their thoughts on that. If you want to share your thoughts on that and you're in the live stream, feel free to share your thoughts. And if you're even in the comment section in the replay, share your thoughts about one of the first things that you would purchase if you had $10 million. I just wanted to welcome Georgina. It's wonderful having you here today, and wonderful having you being a part of what we're doing today. Okay, I like your answer. One of the first things you do is that you let the excitement wear off first. And that's wise because then you end up buying things that you don't need if you don't let that excitement wear off first. So I think it's very, very important. One of the reasons why I thought about this, because I was looking at YouTube and just looking at some different videos that people are really excited about, and I came across Mr. Beast. And Mr. Beast, he uses his money in very, very interesting and creative ways, and he uses it primarily to help people, but he also uses it to have fun. He uses it to help his friends. He uses it to expand his own influence. But for the most part, he uses money in very, very creative and thought-provoking ways. So I wanted to talk about some creative ways that I would want to use money if I had an opportunity to. And maybe you might even see us doing that on our YouTube station in the future. But I also want to hear from you to hear some of the creative ways that you would spend your money if you had $10 million. I guess another question would be, after the first thing that you would do, is what is something that would be, for lack of a better word, crazy, or something that would be not typical of something that you would do if you had $10 million? Like, what would you do if you had $10 million that maybe your friends wouldn't think that you would do, or maybe those around you would think, oh, that's not a good purchase? What's one of the things that you would do if you wanted to just be able to enjoy your $10 million, not thinking about the repercussions, not thinking about what's more important and what's less important, but just something that maybe those who are around you, if they heard about it, they would be surprised to hear that you'd want to do that. I think for myself, one of the things that I would want to do, and maybe my friends wouldn't be surprised about this, because I work a lot. I work doing a lot of different things. So I'm here on YouTube working on this. I'm an author and I write books. So I do that as well. I work with people in many different capacities in many different organizations. And it can be overwhelming. It can be tired. And one dream that I've always had, and this may be a dream that other people share with me, but one dream I've always had is to take a vacation for a month. Take a vacation for a month. And probably go someplace where I don't have to really travel, or I don't really have to go around and do a lot of stuff. But one of the first things that I would do that would be not so typical is I'd want to go on just a month-long vacation. And surprisingly, I would probably want to go by myself. And that's the part where some of my friends are like, "What? Like, you want to go on your friend? You don't want to just have everybody hang out?" I said, "No, because I've been working for so long, working really, really hard, and I would just like to just take a month and be able to be free of doing any kind of work, or being free of just doing anything really, And then, of course, after that month, get back to the grind and get back to doing things. Because even if I had $10 million, I would still like to work. I still like to help people. Matter of fact, most of the things that I'm doing, I would still want to do because I enjoy many parts of my life. I still want to do those things. But in terms of that's probably something that's a little bit different, and it's something that I really really would enjoy. And I've had conversations with some of my friends about it before, and they're like, no, 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 no. After a week, you would get bored, or after, you know, 3 days, you get bored because you like to be out and about and doing things. And even though I do like to be out and about and doing things, I would really think I would enjoy a month off because I haven't had that in years, probably 20 years. I haven't had that kind of time off, so it'd be interesting to do. So we're just going to be talking about some of the things that we could do in terms of just if we had $10 million. So we have some interesting comments here from Georgina that she'd want to find ways of stretching your money, stretching $10 million. uh, I think it cost if you had $10 million, it would cost you money to save money because to go to McDonald's on the time that you spent, if you were to maybe um just put your money in the bank, your money probably make more money than you could spend it if you're trying to stretch it. But I hear you because that's how we live. We're trying to stretch a dollar. We're trying to invest our money and make more money and so forth. But what would you do in terms of if you had $1 million? Another thought here is investing here and there. A matter of fact, this is something that a lot of people don't think about. If you had $10 million, because we don't really think about it because we don't have $10 million, is investing is a challenge when you have $10 million because a lot of times banks insure a certain amount of money and it's usually not that much money, like maybe 200,000, maybe even less than that. And if you have $10 million, it's like you have to have your money a lot of places and keep your eyes on it, all those places, to make certain that it's invested well and that it grows and that's also protected. So investment is probably going to be a full-time job if you had $10 million, but it's a good problem to have because I'd rather have to invest my money in the proper places than not have any at all. But yeah, I think it's very important when we're looking at this subject matter is I think that it is challenging us to become creative in terms of how do we protect what we have. But for me, even more than protecting what I have, how do I enjoy it? And how do I help other people along the way? Because $10 million is not something that's typical because most people in the world will never make $10 million. But it is something to help to stretch your mind so that we can see what we really value, what's important to us. I see that Georgina has here honoring Christ and tithing for sure. And for me, of course, you want to honor Christ in tithing, but then after you also want to honor Christ because I think I'd probably spend the majority of my money if I had $10 million on things related to just pushing forth the gospel, things related to helping people as it relates to the gospel and so forth. So for me, I think the majority of the money and the majority of my focus would be on just helping people to engage with God spiritually, but helping people also to grow. I think it's very important to because for me, I think that's probably my main focus. Is my main focus if I had $10 million would be to minister to people and to find a way to help people and to find a way to alleviate struggles and suffering for people and also to open up pathways for people to have opportunities. And I think the greatest opportunity is to know Christ and to understand who Christ is. So I would invest probably majority of my money in ministry, majority of my money in just helping people, the majority of my money in just building the church and building people's connection with God. So that would probably be my number one goal. My number one focus would be to help people. I would be to build people up spiritually, and then also would love to do things intellectually. I I've always had a desire for learning and for growing intellectually. So, so for sure, I would invest a lot of money in my own personal learning, but I'd invest a lot of money in learning as a whole. It would be great to have a group of people who can just study the word together and to just grow with each other. And even though I guess you could probably do that even without having any money, you could just call some friends up and go to the library, or you could, just connect with people on that kind of level. But at the end of the day, I think that one of the things I'd really want to do is invest a huge amount of money in my education and in the education of others. So it's just shared here, like to invest in schools, churches, centers for youth. And these are things I love to do. But I also love to do this not just within my local area, because where I live, I'm in North America, so there are a lot of community centers built by the government, schools. Our public schools are pretty good in the area that I'm in. Um, we have Catholic schools, we have private schools, but our school system is pretty good, and our youth centers are pretty decent. I think that where I live, there could be a little bit more done along youth centers because I feel like they're not accessible as they should be to the community. But for the most part, I think that we have a pretty good system, at least in my area in North America. But as it relates to around the world, especially in third world countries, would love to build schools, would love to build youth centers, because I know there's not a lot of youth centers in most third world countries, especially in smaller village areas. Would love to build youth centers, would love to encourage and inspire young people around the world to engage technology and to grow as it relates to their understanding of entrepreneurship and being able to develop for themselves. But most of all, as it relates to ministry, getting young people involved in ministry so that they can grow in their knowledge of God, but also in their ability to share God with other people. So it's a lot can happen as it relates to this whole idea of having no limits and being set free. But at the same time, I think a lot of the things that I'm suggesting, or a lot of things that you may be thinking of and you may be listing out, a lot of those things you can actually do them without having to have $10 million. But what I love about this exercise is it gets your mind thinking, gets your mind starting to plan and to envision what you can do if there were no limits. I think it's very important to put aside the limits and not allow the limits to stop us from thinking creatively, to stop us from developing the gifts and the talents that are on the inside of us and starting to think in a broader and in a more creative manner. What are some of the things I'd like to do if I had $10 million outside of things I've already mentioned? I said that I'm an author, so I love to write. So I'd like to have more free time to be able to sit down and focus on writing, and also to get the support, to get the help in the writing process with editors and getting the help with graphic designers, getting the help with just creative people to be able to sit down and talk with and throw ideas off of. And I think that I would love to do those things, but it becomes easier to do those things when you have financial backing. But at the same time, in fairness, you can do a lot of those things without financial backing. I would love to, like in fairness, I do business, but I do business on a part-time scale or in a very simplistic way. I don't do anything too major. But I think if I had $10 million, I would invest a lot more of my money and energy into my own endeavors. So being an author and writing, I also speak, just being a speaker and not having limitations, because a lot of times, you want to speak somewhere or you want to share with a group of people, and then maybe limited income. And if you're limited income and they're limited income, then it makes it hard to be able to get out there and to do some of those things that you'd love to do. So I'd love to hear from you. Feel free, if you are watching this on replay, to just write in the comment section and to let me know some of the things that you would do if there were no limits. If you have financial constraints and you find you can't get some things done, What are some of the things that you would do if there were no financial constraints? If you just had the freedom to just develop an idea and implement it and then have the financial backing behind it. Another comment that we have here is it's just evangelistic and missionary work, being able to support that financially. And I think that that's amazing. And that's something that I would do. And for me, what I love about that as well is just being hands-on. Because currently I support other ministries, or I have supported ministries on a smaller level because I don't have $10 million. But one thing about having $10 million that you can actually hop on a plane, fly there, spend some time there, and not be worrying about your responsibilities back home. Because a lot of times our financial responsibilities can really, really hold us as it relates to us being able to expand, to support, and to help people across the world. Even within our own local vicinity, it's hard to support people when you're trying to survive. So I think that if you had $10 million, it could really open up your mind to things that you can do. Another thing that's shared here is train members. So I think there could be a lot more opportunities in the church, because if I had $10 million, first thing I would do as it relates to church is I would build a beautiful church building that is able to support not only the church members, but able to support the community. And in that, have training centers, like have classrooms where there's training, have teachers that are able to do that hopefully on a full-time basis, and hopefully for free, or at least for a minimal cost, to be able to help people, to build people up in the church, but also to build people up in the community. I think that would be excellent. And I have a lot of ideas for church. I have a lot of ideas for church. And in fairness, when I think about ideas that I have for church, I guess many of them you can do without having a lot of money. But I have a lot of ideas for church. I would love to have like a training center or a Bible school in the church. I would love to develop a church that was self-sustaining and a church that was outreach oriented. So for example, I love to sing. I love music. I would love to have a church that produces music. And even if the music is just for our church, we could produce original music and be able to share it with each other, share it in our home, share it in our community, and even hopefully expand that and make it something that's broader. Like you hear so many wonderful churches have developed ministry and worship that has blessed countless churches around the world. So you might have heard of Hillsong, and they have produced beautiful music to really bless people. Bethel has created some beautiful music to bless people. And there are so many other churches that are out there, Elevation. And if you want to even move from even those churches and look at some gospel artists, William McDowell, Donnie McClurkin, and others who don't really have a church choir per se that's pushing the movement, but they're more pushing as an individual, or wonderful singers who have built ministries to be able to minister to people through music. But to me, I think it'd be very, very key to invest money as it relates into the church to be able to do some of these wonderful things, developing ministries of worship that can expand and help people, ministries in writing and authorship, so that not only would I be able to write, but I'd be able to inspire other people in the church to write, and especially children. When I look back in my past, I wish I had somebody to be able to publish my book or produce my book as a child, because it would have really helped to boost my esteem and got me on the right path to be able to release the thing that God has put in me as it relates to writing, release the thing that God has put into me as it relates to music. And so many other things. I think that so many other worthy ministries that God has put in the hearts, not only of myself, but of others, because God might put something in your heart. And if there was financial backing, it would be easier to do. And sometimes you don't even need financial backing, because to write a book today, you don't really need much financial backing. To create a CD today, you don't really need that much financial backing. You need some resources like musicians and singers and writers and wise people to kind of pull together. But it's not really, you don't need $10 million to do that. But there are so many things that we can do. I really enjoy this comment: to give to the needs of the poor. open a shelter, open up a soup kitchen, open up those kinds of things. For myself, even though I value soup kitchens and I value things that relate to the needy, and I think we should do those things. I think even elevating the idea sometimes and having community dinners where it's not really based upon income. So it's just something that's beautiful, where you have like steak and you have ham and you have chicken and you have beautiful food, mashed potatoes and salads and vegetables, and you have it something beautiful to offer to the community, regardless of their income. So they could be poor, they could be homeless, they could be middle class, they could be rich, they could be a CEO, they could be unemployed. But we all come together, eat dinner together, and enjoy each other's presence. I love those kinds of events. I love those kinds of investments. So for me, I really just want to encourage you to think outside the box, to create within your mind and within your heart. As a matter of fact, even to commune with God and get God to even start to rev your mind up and give you some ideas of some things that you would do if you had a life without limits. What are some things that you would put together if you knew that you couldn't fail? What are some things that you would try if you knew that finance wouldn't be a problem? And to me, as my mind thinks through that, I want to create, ideas or create thoughts that'll be able to serve me as I move forward in life. I'm hoping that I do get $10 million, but even if I don't, I want to have those kinds of ideas, broad ideas that are able to be worked on, implemented on a small scale, and then done on a larger scale to really help people. Because people are in need, but not just to help people, to improve my influence or what I add to society, because I want to add something to society and I want you to add something to society. So those are just some of the things that come to mind. If we're to move on from there, what are some of the things, some of the big things that you want to do in addition to some of the things that we said already? And I think if I was going to chunk up the things I'd like to accomplish, like in larger scale categories, I would say I'd like to do spiritual work. I like to do something to help people and to impact their life so that they can grow and so that they can connect with God. Another big thing I like to do is I like to develop a business or develop a movement. I'd probably focus on publishing. So I'm just kind of speaking from my perspective. Focus on publishing books, publishing movies, publishing literature, publishing conferences, publishing things that can impact people's lives, cause them to trust in the Lord and cause them to believe in themselves. So those are some of the great things I'd like to do. Outside of that, I'd like to enjoy my life. I'd like to do special things with my family, go on particular vacation that I have in my heart to do. I've always wanted to go on a cruise, but I have to be honest, even though I want to go on a cruise, I'm a little bit just concerned because of the current climate that we're in. But I think that if God is willing and God is able, sometime in my future, I would love to go on a cruise or to go on, some kind of trip with my family where I could bond with them and spend time with them. And would love to invest in others, invest in others' education, invest in others' future. I would love to encourage people. I'd love to create projects. And I also love sports. So I love to be able to enjoy sports at some very high level. So maybe if you're looking at like a particular sport, being able to go to the finals of that sport, like the Super Bowl, or to go to the NBA finals, things like that. But I'd also like to accomplish things that are transformative. I'd like to invest in organizations that are doing good work. And I'd like to just simply also grow, grow and to allow the ideas that I have to expand and to be able to flourish. I just wanted to share a few other thoughts that are here. Um, so, vacation Bible study. I think vacation Bible study would be something excellent. Would love to invest in children because I think it's very important to invest in children. Um, Vacation Bible school is very important that we invest in Bible knowledge. And I like this one here because this one actually covers another topic very similar to what we were talking earlier, but kind of expand on it. To own your own radio station. I would add to own your own television station, to own your own like brand as it relates to to owning your brand and then marketing it. Because right now you're on virtual church TV, and for the most part, I can't even say for the most part, all of our advertising on this particular channel is all organic, so it's all free. We just reach out to people that we know or people that are interested in our content, and we connect with them. But I would love to invest in this, and would love for you to invest in this. We have books for sale at NevilleSolomon.com. Would love for you to invest that way, or you can just invest and donate to our channel. There's a link below for donations, and that'd be a donation to our church. And this is the YouTube channel as it relates to our church civil ministries. But yeah, if you had $10 million, what would you do? Well, one thing I'd like to do is I'd like to advertise and market my book. So I'm going to share my book with you at this time, and I hope that you enjoy. God bless.
Have you ever asked yourself the question, what is worship? Or, what does true worship mean? Well, now you can find the answer in this easy-to-read and engaging book titled 5 Benefits of Worship, Experiencing the Power of God Through Focused Praise and Worship. In this book, the author defines what it means to worship God and points you to what true worship looks like. Moreover, authentic Christian worship happens when you focus on God and give Him all the praise. It is through this life-transforming encounter with the greatness of God that people's lives are changed forever. As you, the worshiper, place your trust in the Lord, God responds to you by meeting your deepest needs. Worship is both a personal and public activity that allows you to connect with God. Worship is the point where mortality meets immortality. The mortal transcends from this natural realm into the supernatural realm of God, through which God's glory and power is brought down into the lives of men, which oftentimes invokes the Holy Spirit, manifesting in healings, testimonies, and miracles. This book is focused on worship within the context of praising God in your home and your local church. Despite many churches turning to online methods such as Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom to conduct weekly services, this book was designed to inspire you to connect with God, no matter what situation you find yourself in. The sophisticated yet simple insights contained in this book will help you to grow spiritually. Neville Solomon will take you into dimensions of worship beyond the peripheral knowledge of an average Christian and will challenge you to engage in focused and love-filled worship towards your Creator. This work reviews the 5 major benefits of worship. Namely, 1. Worship as a fragrance. 2. Worship as a teacher. 3. Worship as a weapon. 4. Worship as a medicine. 5. And worship as a family business. I would admonish every Christian wanting to draw closer to God through worship to read and practice the principles of this book. Whether you are a passionate worshiper, a new believer, a pastor, or someone simply seeking to grow in your personal relationship with God, this book is packed with a philosophy that can shoot your life to the next level. It will help you to have an encounter of the revelation and transformation received at the spiritual altar of focused worship.
there you have it. That is my new book called Five Benefits of Worship. If you'd like a copy, you can always grab it at nevillesolomon.com. You can just click down our website, and then there is an order form right under a picture of the book, which is Five Benefits of Worship. So I'd love for you to grab a copy of that. I guess one of the things I would do if I had $10 million is I would invest in the marketing of my book and invest in maybe developing conferences or teaching opportunities for people to be able to study the subject of worship and many other subjects. But those are some of the things that I'd love to do if I was blessed to have $10 million. There's a lot more I can say on this topic, but would love to hear from you. So please, I would love for you to either write in our live stream your thoughts, or would love to also hear from you in the comment section. If you just write in the comment section some of the things that you would do if you had $10 million. If I had some $10 million, there's many of the typical things, because I was talking more about extraordinary things that we would generally do. But there's some typical things I would do if I had $10 million. So some of the typical things that I would do is I would go on a shopping spree, obviously, buy myself some nice clothes, maybe buy some nice things for some other people. Maybe if there is a school in the third world, I would buy some beautiful clothes for maybe a number of schools in particular towns that I'm associated with. Or I would love to travel to many of these different areas and just bring gifts to be able to bless the children and to bless families that are in need. So there are so many things that come to mind that I'd love to do. We talked about having a radio station, television station, but I also like to produce things. I'd like to produce music. I would like to produce probably a television show. I have an amazing television show idea I'd love to put together. I know if I had $10 million, I would do that right away. There's so many things that I would love to do. I would love to, investigate, learn about, and I think I'd put a lot of my finances into that. I think here's a beautiful idea that's being shared is have a prayer station. I think that'd be excellent. Having a prayer station would be excellent, and developing that idea as how you'd like it to look. Because I have seen one or two prayer stations, but because of finances, they've been very, very underfunded, and it's hard to develop. Because it would be nice to have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week prayer station with different people who kind of work within it and are able to reach out and to help people and to pray for people. But finances can be a challenge. But I think the thing that I love is when you start first with removing the challenges, then you can allow the dreams to come alive. You can allow the dreams to expand. And God has given many of us dreams, and He's given many of us ideas. And there are stopping points. Sometimes the stopping point is just merely creativity, not really certain of how to get it done. Other times the stopping point is a matter of finances or resources, not certain where to get the help from or to get the financial aid from. But at the end of the day, I think one of the great things that we can do is to begin to just use our imagination and to allow our imagination to speak to us and to remove the limits and see what would it look like? What's the vision, the ending vision of how something would look like? If you were to watch, like I was saying earlier, Mr. Beast, and see the things that he's doing, it doesn't even make sense how he's able to do some of these things, giving away $1,000 or, giving away $1 million, giving away cars, giving away houses. Like, this stuff looks crazy, but it all starts with a seed. It starts with doing something that's small. So even though we're talking about $10 million, what are some of the steps we would take to achieve some of these great goals that we desire to achieve? I think the first thing to do is to be able to envision it. Can you envision something great that you want to do? Something that I would love to do is I would love to be able to feed 5,000 people. And I was saying earlier, and not just to feed like in soup kitchen style people that are underprivileged and so forth, but to create an environment almost like a wedding or like a banquet, and to feed everybody who's able to come. But within the midst of that, to have people who are homeless, but people who are homeless eating with people who are middle class, people who are middle class eating with people that are rich, people who are religious eating with people who are non-religious, people who are one color eating with people who are another color, people who are from one country eating with people from another country, coming all together and having a time of celebration to spend with each other. And if I had $10 million, that's something I would love to do. And a matter of fact, even though I don't have $10 million, if things pick up in the pandemic and things turn around eventually, that's something that I'd probably love to do. Love to bring people together and have a celebration with each other. I would love to have an opportunity to have church services every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And if I had $10 million, that would be able to help. I don't know if it would be able to cause it to happen, but I know it would be able to help because you wouldn't have to worry about having people there to manage it, having people there to be able to worship and so forth, because there'd be an opportunity for things to be done. But at the end of the day, I just want to kind of provoke us to have broader thoughts, to have a broader way of looking at things. There are certain places that I probably would not go today because it's a bit too lavish, but there's certain places I probably wouldn't go today because of finances. But if I had a finance, I'd probably, maybe go to island where there's nobody else on the island except for me and my friends. I'd probably do something like that. If I had no limitation in finances, so there's some things that I love that are dear to me that I would love to have. Maybe one thing I'd probably do is just maybe get my favorite singer, one of my favorite singers, to come to my house and to just perform a concert for me and for a few of my friends. Those are things I wouldn't do today, but if I had $10 million, I'd probably think about doing something like that. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear your dreams. I think that a dream comes slightly into reality when you speak it, when you write it, or when you think about it. I think that the more you can envision a dream, is the more likely that it can come to pass. So even though we're talking about this in figurative kind of stance, I believe that by talking about, what would I do if I had $10 million, it can provoke in you creativity to be able to do things that will benefit yourself, to do things that will benefit others, and to do things that will benefit God Almighty, because He's the most important one. What would you do if you had $10 million? I think the more that I talk about it, is the more I begin to recognize the limitations of how I think sometimes. Because I'm talking about some very simple things. Most of the things I'm talking about, I could probably do right now with no money at all. But at the same time, I think that it's good to have this conversation and to stretch your mind, to stretch your thinking, so that you can think about, what would I like to do on this earth? I think something that I'd love to do that I haven't done is I'd like to visit every continent and to be able to experience different cultures and to be able to thrust myself into the culture. Because sometimes you can go to a country like I went to India. When I went to India, I thrust myself into the culture. I enjoyed the culture. I ate the food. I met the people. I went off grid and didn't just, go to tourist places, but I really, really enjoyed the culture and I really enjoyed the people. In fairness, I was in South India and I went to North India briefly, and I find the two of them to be completely different. Someone might have a different experience than me, but I find the two of them to be completely different. But I didn't get to immerse myself in North India, which is something that I hope I would love to do. When I went to Africa, I went to just two countries in Africa. I went to Kenya and I went to Uganda. I love both of them. And yet, even though they're so similar as it relates to the people, the culture is so different. It's so different. But if I had $10 million, I would love to get more involved in different countries. I'd love to go to every country in Africa. I love to go to many different areas in India because I love both of those continents and I've been to them. But then I'd like to go to other places because I haven't really been to Europe. And I'd love to probably go to Europe and go to many of the countries that are there. But before I continue, just wanted to say greetings to Mountain of Inspiration. Wonderful having you. And I know that you are a man of vision and a man who believes that God should bless his people financially. But the question that we have today is, what would you do if you had $10 million? So I've just been sharing some things that I would do, from the practical to the not so practical. But at the same time, what I want to do is I just want to encourage all of us to be able to expand our minds and to dream about some of the things that we would do if we didn't have limitations. And and for the most part, um, many things I'm talking about are things that I probably could do now, and probably you could do now. But at the same time, I think it's good to go through this process to continually expand our mind until we get to places where I can't do this right now. But God, I'm trusting you to allow me to have the opportunity to grow and to expand as it relates to my vision and as it relates to um, my opportunities in life. Okay, I think this is a very good one. A news station that has a coverage on only good news. I think that that would be something that would be excellent to be able to develop, and I think that's something that people would love. And in fairness, that's even something that we could do without having $10 million, because I'm on here on YouTube trying to spread some good news. But I think that you can amass an opportunity to just pull together items that are good news and share with people, and we can do it in so many different ways. But at the end of the day, I think that the more we move aside the limits of our resources, the more creative we can become in developing opportunities. Something I'd love to do is I'd love to call gifted people together. So I'd like to have a time of calling together gifted worshipers, where we just spend a day or two together just worshiping together. I'd love to have a time where you just call together prayer warriors, gifted warriors, spend a day or two together just praying. We'd love to spend the time with just having like gifted speakers, spend a few days together and just share the word with each other. And maybe even bringing all of them together and doing something together, but bringing together the gifts of God. And if you had finances, bringing them together from around the world. That would be fascinating. That would be very, very interesting. So there are so much things that I'd love to do if I had the finances. And many of the things that I'd love to do, I could probably even start much of those things without any finances, just starting them right now today. But at the same time, I just want to encourage you, if you are on the live stream, to think of ways that you can expand your life and have a life without limits. And one of the ways of doing that is removing the financial barrier and saying, this is what I would like to do if I had no financial constraints. This is what I like to do if I had no time constraints, because many times finances can help you with the time as well. This is what I like to do if I didn't limit myself, if I didn't block myself. These are some of the things I'd like to do. So this evening, I just want to encourage you to get to the place to just expand your mind and ask yourself the question, what would I do if I had $10 million? And what most people's response is like, individual things that you want or that you desire. One thing I can say that is probably making this a little bit hard for me, because I'm finding it a little bit difficult to think about things I like to do, is I've kind of lived my life doing the things that I want to do, even if I didn't have the budget. So I've flown to places that I wanted to go to, even though I didn't have the budget. I've done things I wanted to do, even though I didn't have the budget. I've attended conferences I wanted to go to, even though I didn't have the budget. I tried a lot of different things I wanted to do: sang music, preached, taught, went to conferences, participated in conferences. A lot of things I want to do, I've already done. And I think it's wise for us to invest our time and try to get the things done that we have in our heart to do. And especially things that we feel like God is telling us to do. We should try our best to do it. But the reason why I pull out this figure of $10 million is to broaden our perspective, to make it bigger. So one thing I'd love to do is I'd love to travel around the world and teach the word in a systematic sense, where I'm not just flying out, kind of going to churches that invite me, but I'm flying out. I have an itinerary. I know I'm going to go to A, B, C, D, E, F, G church on particular dates. Flyers are out. We're prepared. a year in advance, and we can go on and do that. I'd love to do something like that. And if you had finances that could kind of help to structure things better, because I have taught around the world, but most of my teaching has been, okay, I'm going to India. All you pastors that are out there that I know, we met before. Tell me when you want me to come. Organize everything when I come down. I'll just go to your churches, which works. But I would love to be able to structure it more where we have conference centers set up, we have literature, we have people trained, and we kind of go out there with everything kind of organized and structured. But the problem with that is when you don't have the finances, especially in the third world country, it's a little bit more challenging to get yourself organized. So I'd love to do that. Would even love to do that in North America. Have structured, scheduled times of just sharing the word, where it's not so much like the church is sponsoring me to come and organizing, but it's been structured and organized by the ministry because there's $10 million available. I think a big one that has just been brought up here is daycare. Daycare is killing people within North America. Especially in my area, you're paying upwards to $1,500, something like $2,000 a month. That's like a mortgage, or at least rent. You're paying $2,000 a month for one child to be in daycare. Some people have 3 children. My goodness, like, whew, that's something else. But wouldn't it be beautiful to have $10 million to be able to build a daycare and give the parents daycare for free, possibly, and if not for free, even for half the price? If you had a parent today and you're providing daycare to them for like $700 a month or $500 a month, man, they cry. They go on their knees and cry, giving thanks. And $500 is not short. It's not little change. That's quite a bit of money. But at the same time, I think that our imagination, can be expanded when we begin to remove the limitations. One of the greatest limitations, like I was saying, is finances. So what are some of the things that you would do if you had no financial constraints? What are some of the things that you would create if you had no financial constraints? Who are some of the people that you would meet if you had no financial constraints? Who are some of the people that you would stay away from and avoid if you had no financial constraints? Where are some of the places that you would not go? Some people might resign from their job, or they might stay away from certain types of people. Some people might switch, whatever church that they're in, and go to another church. A lot of things can impact a person when they no longer have financial constraints. And to me, a part of the exercise of what we're doing tonight is we're trying to remove those constraints and develop a vision about what we can do if we don't have limitations. I think I would invest far more in the things of God, and not just only like in church and in church projects, but in endeavors that are Christian in nature. So for example, if someone is building a retirement home, maybe developing activities for people in that retirement home and staff to be able to oversee those activities, just so that in the latter years of those who are Christians, you can really encourage them and you can really uplift their spirit. And even for those who are not Christian, going to retirement homes and just blessing people that are there and encouraging them and strengthening them, or even going to daycares and doing the same thing with children. But I think that it would be good to invest the finances that we have to be able to bless those who are before us and those who come after us. It's very important. It's very important. Georgina was sharing here that food bank. It would be good to have a food bank. Wouldn't it be beautiful to have a food bank where you can connect with people? It's not just the delivering of food, but it's actually the connection from one person to another person. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice for people to be able to work with each other and to encourage one another? And for me, one of the main things that I wanted to pull out of this is that in all that we do, we're trying to serve God and we're trying to trust God. So if I had $10 million, I'd want to honor God with that. But also with having that to honor God, I would like to help and to honor people. Because life can be so difficult sometimes, And all you need is just one simple helping hand. And one simple helping hand can really transform your life. It can help to elevate your life. But so many times there is no help that's out there. Another thought that's shared is grants and scholarships. I think having grants and scholarships are helpful. That's another way of helping people. And so many times people they feel like there's no backing or that there's no assistance that's out there. And it'd be good if you had $10 million to be able to provide people with assistance, to be able to support people and to be there to just back them up. I think it's very important to do that. And a part of just thinking about this whole idea is taking an inventory of yourself. Because a lot of things that I talked about today, I took an inventory of myself, and in taking an inventory of myself, I pulled out ideas that are related to my personality, ideas that are related to my gift, ideas that I desire to accomplish. And you create vision with that, or things that God has put into you. And you can see that these are things that God wants you to do, but now you create vision with that. And for me, I would love to create ministry materials like I'm creating today, but being able to get it out to people in such a way that can really impact them, help them to grow. I love to teach, and I wish I had more time to kind of structure my teaching and to provide the teaching to people, to get it out there, to really help people. So I think it's very important. Actually, this is a very powerful. And I want to say welcome to Vanessa. This is a very powerful thought that I think is amazing. And I haven't mentioned this one. As a matter of fact, this one is very essential. It's to purchase land and start growing food for communities. I think this is very important because so many people are having difficulties financially, and the thing that they're trying to save money on is food. So they end up buying processed food or buying no food at all. But if you can have your own land and you can start growing food, you can actually feed people and maybe even make a profit because you can feed them at a lower cost. But ultimately, if you had $10 million, you could actually get the land for less than $10 million, grow food, reap food, give it to people for actually free, and be able to help them. So I think that this is an excellent, excellent idea. It's to purchase land and to start growing food for communities. We'd love to hear any other thoughts or any other ideas that people are sharing. Thank you so far for the many ideas that have been shared by Georgina as well. And just wanted to hear your thoughts. What would you do if you had $10 million? I love all the ideas that have been shared so far. But are there any other ideas that come to mind for you? What would you do if you had $10 million? One thing that I would do, this is kind of a frivolous thing, is I would get my own barber. Because right now I have a barber, but I have to go all the way to his shop and gotta wait, spend a little time there or whatever. And because there's so many people in there sometimes, I might miss my cut and not go there maybe for a week or two or sometimes even a month. And it affects the appearance. So I wish I had my own barber that they can just come to my house or they can just walk with me, keep my hair cut on a daily or a weekly basis. That'd be great. So that's very minimal compared to having your own land and purchasing food. But at the same time, what are some of the things that you would do? I saw earlier that making investments in stocks and other things like that. But I think that it'd be good to make other kinds of investments too, like in developing businesses, in developing resources that are beneficial to the community. And one thing I learned from this whole pandemic is the power is really in the natural resources. Because, for example, like a t-shirt is nice, but when I don't have a job or when I don't have any money, I'm not buying a t-shirt. But when it comes to like food or when it comes to housing, I'm gonna buy those kinds of things. As a matter of fact, I think an idea, and I'm kind of being influenced from the ideas shared already by others, is I'd probably want to buy a property, whether it's to rent it out or to buy it and to resell it. But I think buying property, if I had $10 million, I'd want to do that first and foremost, I'd like to buy maybe my own dream house, something that's beautiful, that I enjoy, that helps me to be excited day after day. So I'd probably want to buy my own dream house, but I probably want to buy maybe two or three other houses to rent out to people that will grow in value and can be resold in the future. Would love to hear from you. What other things would you like to do if you had $10 million? So we have a thought here: private sponsorship. Private sponsorship. Um, and any other ideas anyone would like to share would be great. um, and I think that's good. So private sponsorship. So refugee example. So helping people to migrate, I guess, from other countries to Western countries. I think that'd be excellent. That'd be excellent. And just being able to support others and to help them through situations. And then also one of the major things I'd love to do, and I kind of talked about it, but I want to talk about more specifically, is to go after my passion. Many of us, we have like passions that we have on the inside, and we have to put them aside so that we can do other things. So we have to put them aside to be able to, if we have our kids, to feed our kids, if we are going to school, to pay for our school, or whatever it might be. But you put aside your passion for your responsibilities. And I think we need to take care of our responsibilities. But if I had $10 million, I would invest in my passion. So definitely, because I love singing, I love, I just love, like, sharing music and sharing worship with others. So I definitely would develop opportunities to be having concerts, whether they're for free or for a fee. I develop concerts to be able to share the music that God has put on the inside of me, and I would develop that music. Spend time singing and spend time putting together music. Spend time with musicians, just kind of honing and working with each other, because that's a passion. So my encouragement to you is that you should live with passion. And one of the ways of discovering your passion or pulling out your passion is to say, what would I do if I had $10 million? So I remove the financial constraints, I remove the time constraints. What could I do? What could I get done? And when you begin to develop that, then you can develop some plans of what you'd like to do in the future, where we'd like to be in the future. And by developing these plans, now you can begin to ask yourself, is this something that I want to invest my life in? Do I want to invest my life in getting a plot of land and growing food in it? Do I want to invest my life in creating, creating natural resources for others, or just creating, something, like books, or creating clothing, or creating services, or do I want to invest in nonprofits and the church, and then donating to things that serve the community, donating not just money, but my time, my energy, donating my thoughts, my ideas. I think that it's a phenomenal thing to be able to just spend time and to think about some of these things, and to think about expanding um, my reach and my influence in the world by thinking about what would I do if I had no limitations. So many things have been talked about so far, and at the end of the day, there are some things that we kind of dream of, and there are some things that we desire or we're envisioning. I shared mostly things that I am envisioning, things that I would hope to get done, or things that I hope to do. But but some of the like if I was gonna just say way out there dreams, I'd love to develop like a bus company and put it throughout like third world countries, because one of my pet peeves when I go to third world countries is the finances, as it relates to buses or transportation. It, it just seems a little strange. Like, to me, you should just have buses that run at particular times, that are in good condition, that have fees that will cover the cost of the business, but also won't take all the money away from people that are traveling. What's the use of traveling and it costs me $5 a day to travel, and my pay is $7 a day, or even worse, $6 a day? Like, you're traveling for $1 a day. Like, that's insane. And if I was going to just have a crazy dream, I'd create bus systems for different countries. And out of those bus systems, I tax my own bus system, plus using my money as well. I begin to pave some of the roads. So instead of people traveling on these dirt roads or traveling on these dangerous roads, they would have well-designed highways and well-designed roads to live on, to drive on. So that's like one of those way out of the way dreams. But I just share that because maybe God is putting dreams in your heart, or God is putting ideas in your heart that don't seem like feasible, or just seem like dreaming. But I think that as you expand in those things, God will bring you into the things that you are able to do, or the things that you were created to do, or will bring thoughts into your mind that would be a benefit to the larger community. We didn't talk much about like hospitals and medical care and so forth, but I think it'd be beautiful to do medical care and hospitals. I like this one here, choir ministering outside the church. So just having a choir that can minister like around to different places, and not having the constraints of finances and so forth, that everyone could travel. It could be done easily. Maybe even people could do this on a full-time basis. Like who knows? But then also literally being outside, because I find sometimes the church is so caught in the four walls that we don't literally go outside and communicate and connect with people. But pretty much, I'm kind of coming to a close in terms of some of my thoughts. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts you want to share before we close off, but I would really, really want to write a book maybe every 6 months. And I think it would be even easier for me to do that if I had $10 million, because you could get help, kind of get it done quicker. I love to do a music album every year. I love to have conferences around the world to just inspire people to believe in God, to believe in themselves, and to encourage people to invest in themselves and invest in their future. And to sit down and to have this kind of conversation where you create a list of things that you would do if you had no limitations. If there were no financial limitations, what would you do? If there were no time constraints, what would you do? And begin to write out lists of what you would do if you had $10 million. So that's all I wanted to share with you this evening. It's wonderful spending time with you, and I'm praying and believing that God will continue to work in your life. So what would you do if you had $10 million? If you haven't shared in our stream, feel free to share in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you, to get some ideas from you, and to encourage you to believe in yourself and to believe in God. God bless you.
Have you ever asked yourself the question, what is worship? Or, what does true worship mean? Well, now you can find the answer in this easy-to-read and engaging book titled 5 Benefits of Worship, Experiencing the Power of God Through Focused Praise and Worship. In this book, the author defines what it means to worship God and points you to what true worship looks like. Moreover, authentic Christian worship happens when you focus on God and give Him all the praise. It is through this life-transforming encounter with the greatness of God that people's lives are changed forever. As you, the worshiper, place your trust in the Lord, God responds to you by meeting your deepest needs. Worship is both a personal and public activity that allows you to connect with God. Worship is the point where mortality meets immortality. The mortal transcends from this natural realm into the supernatural realm of God, through which God's glory and power is brought down into the lives of men. which oftentimes invokes the Holy Spirit, manifesting in healings, testimonies, and miracles. This book is focused on worship within the context of praising God in your home and your local church. Despite many churches turning to online methods such as Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom to conduct weekly services, this book was designed to inspire you to connect with God, no matter what situation you find yourself in. The sophisticated yet simple insights contained in this book will help you to grow spiritually. Neville Solomon will take you into dimensions of worship, beyond the peripheral knowledge of an average Christian, and will challenge you to engage in focused and love-filled worship towards your Creator. This work reviews the 5 major benefits of worship. Namely, 1. Worship as a fragrance. 2. Worship as a teacher. 3. Worship as a weapon. 4. Worship as a medicine. 5. And worship as a family business. I would admonish every Christian wanting to draw closer to God through worship to read and practice the principles of this book. Whether you are a passionate worshiper, a new believer, a pastor, or someone simply seeking to grow in your personal relationship with God, this book is packed with a philosophy that can shoot your life to the next level. It will help you to have an encounter of the revelation and transformation received at the spiritual altar of focused worship.